Good evening, Twitch. How you doing tonight? It's Monday, August 28th, 2023. And this is going to be a bit of an abnormal stream here. I normally don't plan on streaming on Mondays normally, but you can't just wait a good 6 days until the next weekend comes out. I think that's what's pretty much going to be the new pace. So tonight I do want to finish Fires of Rubicon, and I think if anything we're definitely at the end of the game. At least I hope we are. Definitely feels like it is at the climax. Looks like it's going to be a 5-chapter game. Hoping it is, but we will see here. But I think what's going to happen currently is I'm going to make the pivot towards weekend streaming is kind of going to be the norm. At least that's my ideal. That's my goal here. Hey, how's it going, Kite Pyro? How's it going? It is going okay. It's the start of the week. Start of the week. Active in a lot of things. Particularly, of course, looking for jobs and such. That's been the goal here. But I've been greatly enjoying Armored Core 6 here. I've been having a lot of fun, actually. Despite how much I've been getting my butt whooped into it. But it's been a lot of fun. It definitely is like, it's a game that knows what it is, even after all these years. Just being very simple, very straightforward. You watched a video on how to market yourself with clips. Yes, that is actually important. I think if anything, what the big thing is, it's not simply just marketing yourself with clips. Marketing in itself, I've been actually taking a certification course towards marketing. To help build up my experience. And it actually has been a very educational course in some aspects. In other aspects, it's more of a little harder to actually grasp just simply because you need to actually have a business to market in order to actually do it, because you obviously need, well, money to purchase things like marketing, like ads and such, or making your own ads and making your content and such. Making videos back in the day was simple. You know, here's the fun thing. It's not so much that it was simpler. It was broader. That's really what the difference was. You could actually, a lot of people like YouTube. What was it? It was you making videos for people, of things that took your interest and did that. Unfortunately now, obviously, we got to commodify everything. We got to monetize everything. And it's kind of funny, actually. Seeing a lot of people who are pretty much known for covering From Software games. Particularly, obviously, because of Dark Souls. Because that's more or less the franchising. I'm including Elden Ring on this. Just throwing that on in. And now that they're making Armored Core content, it actually kind of is hurting them, because not only is it really going to hurt them in terms of the algorithms, even though the content is still just video games, but their own viewership, because we look at things at such a narrow lens now, because you go to a YouTube channel, you expect it to be about a very specific thing, and that's even what YouTube tells you to do, and that is actually how you succeed. You find a topic. It could be broad. It could just be video games in general. I wouldn't expect that. Very few people are very successful at that, though. It usually has to be about a game. It's the same thing with, like, Mirai. He's absolutely blowing up on Twitch at a much faster rate than most people actually expect. And one reason is for the very simple fact that he is focusing on a extremely popular franchise. And it's also within a scope of being an FPS game. It's, Valorant. Valorant is an extremely popular game. It has the Riot fan base, it has the Counter-Strike fan base behind it, and obviously it also, well, people who are just like playing Valorant. But the YouTuber watch, he really does videos on MMOs. Yeah, actually, there's a person I used to moderate for, but he doesn't stream anymore for obvious reasons, just simply because streaming's a whole different animal, and compared to actually making content on YouTube, it's better to make content on YouTube than it is to stream. YouTube is where you build your viewership. Streaming is where you hang out with your viewership. There are very few people who are actually successful at building a career from streaming, and usually a lot of people who kind of really reach the upper echelons, who are part of the whole, that big club, like the George Carlin comedy skit. It's a big club and you ain't in it. A lot of those people will, they started on YouTube, and then they just simply convert their audience over to a streaming platform. And it could just be YouTube again, but the reason why so many people even gave Twitch the time of day isn't simply because Justin.tv had the technology and stuff. Twitch was successful because it focused on video games. They wanted to segregate all the people who were streaming on Justin.tv to Twitch. So they literally made a place for video game content. But the other reason why they didn't do YouTube and such is because, well, we're always told, conventional wisdom is, oh, don't throw your eggs in one basket. Today, I would simply say, just, if you can, go full YouTube. It probably would actually do you better in the long run, if you actually do decide you want to stream. I know it's not really popular to have all of your content populated in a single place. I know a lot of people, because a lot of people have the expectation now, once again, with YouTube, you just want one piece of content. Like, what's the one subject you're going to cover, and that's it. And when you let your channel get flooded, and that's why I think most people now are just creating, like, actually making their name a brand, and then having, like, basically a branch of it. Like, okay, here's a YouTube channel just for the streaming, here's a YouTube channel for the actual content, and that, if anything, is actually a smart idea. Because you gotta play with what viewers expect, and what people actually expect. And that's what they expect. Yeah, you gotta start somewhere. And if anything, that's actually the best thing. Your best chance is literally just start creating content. I'd err on the side of saying it's probably better unless you were going to create a character, a persona of sorts. Like, that running with a persona is, if anything, like the only exception to the rule of why you shouldn't actually just start a channel under your actual name. And then just from there, just start making content. If you have something that you're passionate about, something you're interested in, start making videos on it and see, and you'll see if you actually take a look at your analytics and stuff, what will actually work. What will be successful, what will not be successful. You started doing LPs in high school, but you don't know why you stopped. Well, I'm sure you'll probably find the reason if that's something you actually want to worry about. But the important thing is, hey, you're here today, and you can literally learn and create anything you want. And all you have to do is just start it up again. And that's all it takes. It just takes your time, just takes a little bit of effort, and you run with it. But for now, though, why don't we actually hop on in? I actually don't know how much we actually have here for the Fires of Rubicon. At least I'm hopeful. But for me, this has been a lot of fun to be able to do this. Is Armored Core hard? Like Dark Souls hard. Here's my response to that. A lot of people actually are going to say that. I would say, and I'm going to speak strictly about Armored Core 6 here, because just about this game for now, and I'll branch out to my previous experience later. Is Armored Core 6 hard? No. I wouldn't say it's actually hard. It has difficulty spikes. But the thing that actually makes the game difficult is, and this is from personal experience, because the gameplay loop of Armored Core has always been this. You take on a mission. Depending on how much damage you take and how much ammo you expend, determines how much money you will actually get from the mission. Now, they've circumvented that, more or less. That still exists in this game. So basically, I'm taking a job for 100,000 credits. My repairs and ammo cost is 50,000. I get paid 50,000. Used to be in the earlier games, just for example, that was how you actually gamed over. If you actually ran into a negative, you basically went bankrupt. This game doesn't really... You'd have to really, really try to go bankrupt, but even then, this game basically can't let you fail at all, because you can restart from checkpoints, you can restart the entire mission over. If you game over, your health runs out, you can actually, quite literally, reassemble your entire core and start with a completely new build and continue off where you were left off from that checkpoint. So there's not... even when you run into those difficulty spikes, strictly speaking, of like the bosses, Josh Strife Hayes did a video on was it any good on OG Armored Core. He said it was good. I don't know who Josh Strife Hayes is, but in terms of like Armored Core and stuff, are you gonna expect to actually things to be difficult? I think if you have experience with a third-person shooter game, you will do fine with this game. There will be difficulty spikes, and that'll be the bosses. And the reason why the bosses are quote-unquote hard is because you have to adapt to the new systems where there's a stagger system. If you played Sekiro, which I did not, so this is my first time dealing with a stagger system, it's important. I'm not going to link... don't worry about that, Kite Pyro. I'm usually not the type of person who does... And honestly, I hate it. I'm not the type of person who likes, like, oh, let me just watch this other person's video on stream. I know that's basically like how, you know, pro tip, if you really want to actually be successful, that is literally, in terms of streaming, like, there's a point where if you get enough of viewers, it doesn't matter what you do anymore, you could literally just sit on your butt and just watch other people's content on YouTube all day, and if they're fanatical enough, your average person doesn't care. They're there for you, and they don't worry about what you consume. Me, personally, I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, let's just stop streaming, because I want to create my content. I want to talk about the things I want to talk about. I want to hang out with the people who are here. And not, let's just take another person's content. You don't have to say, sorry, this isn't, like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's just my personal mindset. Obviously, it's an unpopular one. I think, if anything, a lot of smaller streamers and stuff would probably agree with me on that. But, no, like I said, you don't need to say sorry about that stuff, man. But no, yeah, Armored Core has always been a good game. Because, one thing, and I'll actually just, and here's one thing I can actually show you. I'll explain it. I can explain it right now. Armored Core is not like you have to have crack aim, you don't need to be a good shot and stuff, because here's the thing about Armored Core, and that's even existed since the first Armored Core game. 99% of weapons are auto-aim, because the game, you're in a mech, for goodness sakes. You're literally given what they call an FCS, and as long as the enemy is within range and in your sights, whatever weapons you are using, they will actually fire and they will hit the target. With the exceptions of, like, if they're dashing, if they're moving at extremely high speed, things like that. But other than that, though, you're pretty much, having auto-aim. Like, this game did something different and actually allows you to unlock manual aiming, which I could definitely see that being the future, because... So with Gundam? Yeah, you're piloting a Gundam, you're piloting a Virtualon, you're piloting a, I forgot what they called the mechs in Macross, but the mechs in Macross. Or Robotech, as I grew up with it. Like, the story of this game is a lot darker than all the other Armored Core games, I'd say, because, well, maybe with the exception of Armored Core 3, but, this obviously is, you're living on a planet that quite literally blew up, or was engulfed in flames, and everyone is back to, well, the corporations are there just to farm all of the coral. That is literally what the plot of this game is. That's kind of been what the plot of a lot of the Armored Core games is corporations basically are the ones who are hiring you as a mercenary to do all their dirty work so that they can establish their own monopoly, whether it was on Earth, Mars, Earth again, because, you know, every single Armored Core, whether it was Armored Core 1, 2, 3, it was their own self-encapsulated story. Exactly, you gotta make profit. But that's what Armored Core is. Is it a hard game? No, I would actually not say it's a hard game. If anything, actually, I could literally be as reductionary and simply say, hey, you know how much I actually like EDF thanks to Proton John? You could honestly say, you know what, this game is very similar to EDF in that sense. It's a third-person shooter, you're literally selecting missions, and it's just go, and 90% of the missions are, hey, destroy this target, destroy that target, do that. That's all it really is. The Chapter 1 boss is hard. Yes, the Chapter 1, here's the thing, and I'll actually go into that, actually, because that's what most people are actually running into. The reason why the Chapter 1 boss is hard is for a couple of reasons. One, you don't really have a lot of weapons. It's two things. It's one, it's self-manufactured. And two, you usually don't have an in-depth knowledge of the game's mechanics. Those are the two reasons why. The first one, being self-imposed, is literally because a lot of people are so used, like myself, if you're a veteran, is it a skills check? Yeah, it kind of is. It's a little bit of a skills check. You obviously, like with any Dark Souls boss, and I think if anything that's the best comparison, is basically like they just took like, hey, you know those bosses you kind of like in Dark Souls, hey, we've made them in Armored Core. They're a lot tankier, they have a lot more health, but there are things you can do if you know how to use the game systems to destroy it. So, but yeah, you will learn the enemy's attacks, and honestly a lot of them are, and I think if anything that's the real criticisms I would have, is basically a lot of enemy attacks for those bosses are extremely hard to dodge with the base moveset that you are actually given in this game. You know, your basic evasion, instead of dodge rolling, you have quick boost. So, no, it's basically a boost of speed. That alone is not going to get you away from the majority of attacks from those bosses. That is probably the one reason why everyone literally got themselves destroyed by that boss, including myself. It probably took me about 10 tries to actually beat the boss, and half of it was a self-imposed thing, and that's because an older AC player is so used to just using the bare minimum because you want to build up as much money as possible so you can buy more weapons, you could buy more AC parts, so you have more options further down the road. So you're going to use what basically will cost the least. And so you're kind of stuck in that mindset of going, well, this boss shouldn't be so hard. I was able to go through all the missions with what build I have. I should be able to beat the boss with the build I have. Yeah, no, you're going to have to actually change things, because the second part, you need to know the game's mechanics. And the impact, the staggered system in this game is critical. It is extremely important that you know how to actually get a boss or get an enemy into its staggered state so you can actually optimize your damage. You can't just simply take the weakest guns in the game that do the lowest amount of damage and expect to come out on top. Now, there's no terrible weapon in this game. Every single weapon has its pros and cons and such, but strictly speaking for the bosses, if you're trying to play this game with trying to save up as much money or playing like with the bare minimum, you're going to have a much more difficult time defeating a boss than if you actually, let's just say, took the biggest gun you can take that will throw the boss into a staggered state, so then you can do more damage to him. So it's partially a skills check, just like with any Dark Souls boss. You just need to actually know what you learn their attacks, and you adapt. Standard thing. But what most players will not do is that latter part. They will not actually, because call it pride, call it ego, call it whatever you want. it's a lot harder to actually tell a person, hey, you gotta go back to the shop and buy different parts so you can beat the boss. Any Dark Souls player that you know of will probably be going, oh man, I know I can do this with what I have, and just slam their head into the wall over and over again. I think the reason why Chapter 1's even harder is because the content of this game is drip-fed to you, which means you don't get as many weapons, you don't, like Chapter 1, you barely have any parts, you barely have any weapons that are accessible to you, and obviously you're not really running around with a lot of walking around money to buy new parts. And if you do, well, you need to actually think like, hey, even though you can't sell all of your parts to get 100% of your credits back, you can do that 100%. There's still gonna be that ego or pride that person will have saying, I can do this with what I've got. Because this is the stuff that actually let me beat all of the other missions, because you probably went through a good maybe 12 missions in Chapter 1. And you could just run with the basic mech that you started the game with, and you'll be fine. But then you run to the boss, and the boss does 5,000 damage to you in one hit. What are you gonna do? And if you're a guy like me, it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to I grit and bared my teeth, and I did what every other player did. It's like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I have the weapons, I have the means, I'm going to beat the boss with what I've got. What I should have done, actually, to be smarter, was actually go to the shop, take a look, and say, like, hey, alright, let's really learn this mechanics. So they can teach you to adapt. No. You kind of have to make that realization for yourself. And the realization really just simply comes from you get more options. Because a lot of Armored Core games, and I'm going to bring in Armored Core 2 and 3 into this now. Armored Core 2 and 3, that's my experience with Armored Core games. Back when you didn't even have analog controls, you literally used the shoulder buttons. It was tank controls. And you also had to use the shoulder buttons to strafe left and right and look up and down. Those were the controls for Armored Core 2 and 3. But the one thing Armored Core 2 and 3 had, it basically kind of gave you all the bulk, about, I would say, a good 80% of the weapons right off the bat. Like, hey, you want to actually go with a reverse joint leg, go for it. You want to go with a tank build, go for it. You want to go with hover legs, that was a thing at the time, go for it. You want to go with all rocket launchers, go for it. You want a bazooka, go for it. This game doesn't... Armored Core 6 doesn't do that. It will give you more than enough weapons for Chapter 1. There was more than enough resources, more than enough weapons and stuff, but it didn't really let you build to what you would want to do. And so you gotta make that choice. Like, am I going to adapt, or am I going to be stubborn and say, like, alright, this is what I'm going to... This is my mech, this is what he has, and I'm going to just deal with it no matter how potentially terrible it actually is against bosses. And you might figure out what it actually is. But here, I want to actually take a moment here. I want to actually simply say my speech here about where we are in the game and such, because we're on the final chapter. And I always like doing a quick summary of what's going on when I start the game here. So, if you'll indulge me a bit, Kite Pyro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Armored Core 6 here. We are in Chapter 5. In our last stream, well, we found where the convergence was, where the fires of Ibis started. Unfortunately, though, the Arquebus Corporation, the one who hired us, well, they decided to backstab us. We discovered the convergence, we went down to figure out exactly what Handler Walter was looking for. And unfortunately, we were met with betrayal. And it seems like Arquebus has had their own. Thankfully, though, despite our body being dumped, we were actually rescued by Handler Walter leaving us an old AC in oddly enough, the ruined city. But we're also rescued by his associate, Cinder Carla. So effectively, we made our daring escape thanks to her rescuing us. And now we don't have Handler Walter with us anymore. We're now working with Cinder Carla. And the corporation that has taken it all has been the Archivist Group. Now we're going to find out what exactly happens when a dog has no leash. But as you can see here, this is our new mech. I've named it the aptly named Blood Raven. And what I've decided to actually run with here, I'll actually show you. I decided we're going to go with, and this is from previous experience from all of the other builds we've done. Actually, here, I'll show off that real quick. So we started off with our first mech. Actually, our first mech was technically the C4621, which is our character's name here. And of course, we took Raven as our identity. But we took Raven's design and we altered it a little bit. Not too much. And we made a little bit more of an alteration. We added the shield to see if that was going to work for us, and it didn't really work out for us as well as I wanted. It's not exactly my playstyle, since shields are a brand new mechanic. I'm certain for a lot of people it'll probably be a very, very useful mechanic, but not for me, not for me. Then for Chapter 2, we actually built a tetrapod, and we tried our hands at a pike for a melee weapon. We actually switched from the laser blade that they gave us to a pike, because that opened up. And we also tried a laser rifle as well. And we stuck with and we added some missile pods here as well. Trial and error, absolutely. Everything is trial and error. Because there's no best mech and there's no worst mech. And for Chapter 3, when you cross the ocean to the central ice fields, we went with the reverse joint leg here. Unfortunately, I didn't exactly name all of our ACs here. But we ran with 2 assault rifles that you actually start with, and went with 2 dual grenade launchers here, the Songbirds. Very, very useful. This was extremely fast mech, actually, for its build, but it was extremely lightweight, and was very much a glass cannon. But it definitely did the job extremely well. And was definitely a teaching moment for the how much damage I was actually able to pull off, even with a lightweight. And I pushed the limits for this mech absolutely to the brink here. If you see those 2 little triangles under current load and current EN load, they were at the maximum. Pretty much most other weapons I would not be able to equip. So that was a very enlightening experience to be able to play a very lightweight reverse joint leg mech. But then we decided, just to finish showing off every single leg part in the game, we made the Guts tank. You probably know the Guts tank from Mega Man 2. But what we went with? We went with full weight, absolutely a beast, having 17,000 AP, having 17,000 hit points. Was the line in the bar. The line in the bar is basically what you currently have equipped. So it's always going to there's always going to be a comparison. If the numbers are blue, that means it's better. If the numbers are red, that just means it's worse. As for the little lines on the current loading EN load, that simply means that's where it currently is, which is where, well, Blood Raven sits right now. So it kind of gives you a marker in comparison. But we made the Guts tank from Mega Man 2. I thought it was, and this mech absolutely worked beautifully. Absolutely destroyed. It was hard to control, but it absolutely demolished the arena. And it absolutely demolished a lot of the game here. We actually ran with 2 laser guns, as well as 2 laser cannons in the back as well. Very, very powerful. Definitely think a lot of people who will do PvP will probably be running tank legs, just because of how much AP you can actually get and how much defense you could actually get. And this wasn't even as tanky as you can get. I could have thrown a lot more on there. But now we're down to the Blood Raven here. And I'll actually go back to the normal assembly here, because, hey, look how big our boy is. Kind of with my color scheme here. But I decided to go with the laser handgun from the Guts tank that I used before. Absolutely, like, I went full-on energy load with this build here. I really like this gun, actually. It does a good amount of damage. I don't really use the charge attack that much, but the reason I don't is because I can definitely maximize, just keep firing this thing. You can keep firing this thing and not have it overheat. But I did add something different here, because I decided to add the linear rifle Harris here, and the reason why I added that was because of how much impact and accumulative impact it actually will adds up to. Because compared to the laser handgun, it doesn't add up that much. This one, even though it has only 10 rounds per magazine, it does still have 360 bullets, so still actually, I can still use this as a normal weapon if need be. But this also helps build up the stun potential. But I think the one thing I definitely have spoiled myself on is I'm still going to use both stun needle launchers. These were actually pretty much a boss weapon. I was actually going to have one Songbird, one stun needle launcher, but I decided with the build I'm going for, it's probably better for me to have lasers, but I want to have something that can build up impact damage. And I think, if anything, this is going to give me that balance I want, where I can still fire like crazy. And I could go with other weapons as well. I didn't buy shotguns with the left hand. Did I buy shotguns with the right hand? I did not buy shotguns with the right hand. Well, that tells you how stingy I am. But these... The reason why I'm going with these, even though they don't have exactly the highest attack power, they don't have as much attack power as the Songbirds. If you can stun an enemy, in other words, stagger them, their cumulative impact, even though it's not exactly the highest, is still... It's still strong enough that I would actually still warrant a use for it. Because the direct hit adjustment of these, and I'll show that in a second, absolutely decimates how much you can actually do. And I'll show that off in a second here. But for the helmet, I decided to go with the Ephemera. We actually found this last night. And it's overall a pretty good one. Has a good scan distance. It's weak in kinetic, but that's more than enough. It makes up for in its energy and explosive defense. And I decided I originally wanted to actually go with an All Mind Alpha, because All Mind is for all mercenaries. I originally wanted to go with an all Mind mech, but I decided, you know what, this wasn't going to work for it. I still kept the core, because overall it's actually still a pretty good design, and it gives a good amount of defense with it, and a good amount of attitude compared to most other body parts here. I decided to go with the Nakryer arms here because this has the highest firearm specialization. And firearm specialization basically means it improves target tracking for performance. Basically, it'll help me keep enemies intact. But I'm going to be curious how the recoil will do in relation, because that's something I'm going to be testing out here. Yeah, recoil is 35, recoil is 35. I think we'll be fine with our lighter arms here. Here, the recoil control is 52. The other parts I went with was with the Wrecker, which, strangely enough, and I don't understand this, once again, I was going to go with the Mind legs, and it's overall about the same speed. But are you kidding me? Really? Well, huh. I can finally equip these. Hilarious. How much speed am I? I'm actually losing speed for that. Strangely enough, I'm still going to go with the Wreckers here. And the reason I'm going with the Wreckers, despite, strangely enough, being like being bipedal legs, because I have to admit it, I'm a bipedal user, through and through. These were still actually really good legs, and strangely enough, also really fast compared to most other bipedal legs I actually own. That was the other reason I was going to go with the, Mind Alpha. They were actually the fastest. Let's see. I'm assuming you have a set max you can equip before you... Yep, exactly. So, yeah, here we go. So, if we go with the Ephemera here, it'll actually tell you are overburdened. You are not able to actually, equip that. And you can see that from its current load. A lot of people will enjoy and simply say, oh, Armored Core is a spreadsheet game. Yeah, you could play it like a spreadsheet game if you want. Constantly trying to, like, min-max values and such. That's actually tempting. That is somewhat tempting. But I think I'm pretty much happy with her. And I want more attitude stability, because that's the stagger system there. For a booster, we went with a lightweight booster. Went with a booster that can do its quick boost reload very, very quickly. And it's also one of the more faster ones. Since I don't have to worry about melee attack, I'm not worried about that at all. So this actually is pretty much my fastest booster that I own. FCS, I'm still going with medium range. And this one gives me the max amount of medium range assist. And I'm not worried about missile lock or anything like that, and both of my guns are medium range. And for the generator, we found this generator, actually. A prototype coral-based internal combustion generator developed long ago by Rubicon Research Institute. Optimized for power-hungry coral weapons with rapid EN recovery enabled by maximum combustion. Yeah, that's really good. It's terrible it's an EN recharge, but oddly enough, it actually recharges super fast when you use all of your fuel. So I'm taking a bit of a gamble and saying, you know what? If I'm going to run out of fuel, at the very least this will recover quickly. And it does also one other thing that they changed about generators that's new. Higher values correspond to greater attack power and reduced charging time for weapons affected by the spec. In other words, any energy weapons you use, they will charge faster if this number is higher. And it also will give you more attack power with the energy weapons, which is why I'm kind of want to use the energy weapons. And I'll actually show you how much I really have learned about this game. So this is the AC test mode. This basically lets you kind of run around. Run and play around with what you want. You have 3 types of weapons, actually. The only one I don't have is actually an explosive. But I'll actually show that off. You know, actually here. I can actually show off all 3. Yeah, you have energy weapons, you have kinetic weapons, pretty much just think shell. So, standard guns. And then you finally have explosive. And I'll actually show off the explosive here. Missiles are considered explosive. So, we actually just equipped the songbirds here, just for an example. You know, oddly enough, I used to really enjoy using missiles. Not so much right now. So, let's actually just target this enemy here. This is just an AC, it's just going to be a dummy for us. And I'll show you what the stagger system does. So, if I fire my laser rifle here, you see that little yellow part there. Slowly builds up over time. But with my kinetic rifle, you see how quickly this actually builds up. If he goes into his stun, he'll take a higher amount of damage. You know what? I changed my mind. I'm going with the songbirds. I've made an executive decision here. Like, this will help you build, you know, like... You can very quickly build up. Yeah, so this will do 1,800. This does 2,200 if they're in their stun mode. And even if, like I said, I can just use these. Get them up higher. And just blast them again. And I could just show a tetrapod. these guys are a little bit sturdier. Well, they can be a little bit sturdier. The only downside about using the kinetic rifle here is that it doesn't... Obviously, I'll have to reload. But this the laser handgun, I'm just going to be using just to actually do normal damage. But if I use the missiles, along with the laser rifle, I can just lay down a lot more damage. So yeah, it really does, you really do learn a lot actually once you realize how important the stagger system is in the game. And the game gives you plenty of other options. Like I'm going with more of a direct approach here. And I'll actually just show this off here because the songbirds here, their stats are actually really good. And I think you actually do get these in Chapter 1. So you have two types of impact here, actually. So with the stagger system, or they call it the accumulative ACS overload performance. In other words, basically, I don't know why they keep calling ACS and attitude stability here, actually. Oh yeah, attitude control system, that's what it's called. Yeah, so basically your attitude control system here basically means if this reaches to its maximum amount, you will be stunned. You will be staggered. But then you have the impact here. This is basically what it takes to actually build up. There's the initial impact, which basically is basically your spike of impact, and then there's the cumulative impact, which is the sustain. So in other words, you're doing two types of impact damage. One's a burst, and one's that'll stick onto it. And your recovery of the straight impact is very quick. It'll, like, literally less than a second you'll recover from this type of impact. It's your cumulative impact that really matters. But then you have something called the direct hit adjustment, which is a damage multiplier. So I'm assuming 140 means 140%. This one, the stun needle launcher here. Oh right, there was another reason actually. Yeah, here it is actually. Yeah, when the enemy's tolerance is exceeded, a forced discharge of electricity occurs, causing additional damage. So there's three types of effects you can get. So there's camera disruption, so you can basically impair the enemy from their lock-on capabilities. You can shock them, which does extra damage. And then there's ACS failure. Interferes with the enemy's ACS, greatly reducing stability if tolerance is exceeded. So basically that's, think of fire. I believe that's what actually causes that attitude control system. This one does shock damage, which is a major benefit, which there aren't many weapons I've come across that does shock damage. But between the two here, you can get a lot more damage by running with two stun needle launchers, but if you really want to go with build up that impact damage really quickly, you probably will want something like an explosive. Because, like, these two missile launchers I have here, which I more or less started the game with, yeah, their impact is not that high. 160 versus 1060. And this, like I said, this is the missile launcher you started the game with, so yeah. But to start, the first thing I want to actually do, and this will be our basic test here, let's finish off the arena. There are only 3 more opponents left in the arena, and they are the S-class. So let's become the 9-breaker before we start Chapter 5. And our first opponent here, rank 3 S. Name is King. His AC is called Aster Crown, an independent mercenary who arrived on Rubicon around the time the Coral Response was rediscovered. Held to be a member of Branch, a hacktivist collective active in the Rubicon system. King is said to have confounded an entire fleet of heavy warships in a solo diversionary maneuver during the attack on Station 31. Branch is made up of a rotating group of 4 people, and King is believed to be the oldest of the current roster. Alright, let's see how our build does against this guy. We lost a lot of AP compared to our tank build.
Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program number 3. Only the best remain. Subject AC, Aster Crown. Call sign, King. Commencing evaluation.
Main system activating combat mode.
Oh! He actually stunned me.
At 50%.
Target destroyed. Concluding evaluation. Well done.
And down goes the king. "21 seconds. That's not a new record, but I think that's a good demonstration of how powerful the stagger system actually is. And we got... Oh, I still need to spend all my operating system chips. Got the data for Aster Crown. So if we want to actually play as Aster Crown, we can. Oh, assuming I have the parts for it. Which, speaking of which, just as a moment... So if you actually play through the arena, what you actually get is the actual data of each mech that you have fought in the arena. And if you see a money amount, you see the credits there. So you see under Index Dunham, 824,000 credits. That means you can actually buy all of the parts and build their mech. The red triangle means you currently don't have the parts in your possession for it. So you can actually build and just copy all of the opponents that you have fought in the arena. And we have fought a lot of people. And surprisingly enough, we actually are missing quite a bit of parts here. We're not able to actually build completely. We have gone through quite a bit of them, and strangely enough, we still don't have all of their parts. Really? Yeah, we don't... How do I not have his stuff? What the heck does he have that I don't? Oh, he must have a... Yeah, he has a special weapon, then. But yeah, let's keep going through the arena. Rank number 2S. G1 Michigan. AC's Liger Tail. Commander of the Red Guns, the Balam Group's AC squad. Michigan took up leadership after a career as a commander of the Furlong Armed Fleet. There he earned a reputation as a merciless, heavy-handed ogre of a man, and he was equally feared by friend and foe alike, who knew him as Hell on 4 legs. Apparently he has posted a bounty on his own head to Balam's bounty board, with the stipulation that half the reward money is to be distributed among his former comrades at Furlong. Well, let's see what his simulation is like. I fought alongside him, and now I can fight against him.
Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program, number 2, rank S. Subject AC, Liger Tail. Call sign, Gun 1, Michigan. Commencing evaluation.
Main system
He has a
activating
Vulcan
combat
gun.
mode.
That's not good. Oh, that's really not good.
AP at 50%. AP at 30%.
Ooh, that was close.
Target destroyed. Your next opponent stands at the apex of the arena.
"32 seconds. Man, he had a lot of firepower. Well, I could see why he was feared. Alrighty. Lost opponent. Rank 1S. V1. Freud. Zayce's Locksmith. Commander of the Vespers. I have yet to actually even meet this person. Although I see the symmetry between his emblem and Walter's emblem. Commander of the Vespers, the Arquebus Group's augmented human squad. An ace pilot who achieved an astonishing 94.7 mission success rate during the Island 4 disturbance. Freud is widely suspected to be the recipient of repeated adjustments, much like Snail. However, the real Freud is simply an ordinary human being, a man who enjoys piloting his AC and making incremental improvements on his daily sorties. Interesting. Well, let's see what the king of the arena is like.
Final Arena Combat Aptitude Evaluation Program. This will be the last evaluation. Subject AC, Locksmith. Call sign, V1, Freud. Commencing evaluation.
Main system. Activating combat mode.
Oh, that's not. Oh, that's really not good.
Target destroyed. This concludes all evaluations. We thank you for your cooperation.
There we go. 25 seconds. That was blazing fast. And he was just using basic equipment, too. Ooh. The laser drone. I've never seen that corporation's emblem before. The VVC 700LD. What part is that? Was that... I don't think that was a part that Locksmith was using.
Incoming comms.
Congratulations, you have completed all ranks. Though these encounters may be simulated, you have reached the apex of our roster. We would be grateful were you to aid us in our research and development. All Might exists for all mercenaries.
You have completed all combat aptitude evaluation programs. Evaluation complete. Arena CAE program. I know how it is. I know how you feel about Kite Pyro. There are so many games you want to get, but limited time and money. And honestly, I've come to peace with, short of making covering video games a business, so I can actually use buying games as a business write-off. it's best to know to work with what you have. Work with what and figure out what tools you actually will need. And what games you really, really want to play. Because remember, we're heavily marketed to 24/7. And you should be asking yourself, like, what games do you actually want to talk about? What games actually really capture your interest? Or what's more of a, you know, basically get the value out of your money? And there, if you have collected games, even if you have a small collection like myself, it is still more than enough games to last yourself a lifetime. Never mind if you actually want to go back to any games you want to replay. Because, I'll be honest, I really do want to bring back playing retro games and such, because I realize I have more fun with games like Armored Core 6 and older retro games, because they were literally games. They weren't life experiences. They weren't something that you had to play every single day just to actually, you know, get to, you know, just to like reach this never-ending goal and such. And I'll carve out exceptions for things like MMOs and stuff, because there are things you can get from MMOs that outside of the game itself, which is getting to know more people, building a community, building relationships online and stuff. I'll carve an exception out for those, but you can still do that with a lot of other games, be it FPS games or other competitive games like Team Fortress 2. Still one of the best games out there, simply because the server you joined could basically be your third place. And that makes a huge difference for a lot of people. But first things first, oh right, they usually will put the, they'll usually put the opposite part. I'm assuming that was the shoulder part I got, if there's two. Yeah, I think he had, curious though what he had actually. It's, what? Is it a different arm part? Where are you? It's not an arm? What the heck? Well, now I'm curious. What the heck? It wasn't legs, I know that much. Was it a generator? It's not a generator. What the heck? Is it a right arm? I don't know where the item is. Might be in the... it has to be the right back arm unit then. They probably gave me the left instead. There it is. The laser drone. Laser drones developed by VCPL. When launched, these drones surround enemy machines and provide supporting laser fire. The drones also pursue enemies, allowing the user to effectively outnumber their target. I've never seen that icon before. I think that's the drone one. Or it will not let me look at that. Let's see. I always never liked that. Yeah, see, so you have... Huh. I never knew that until now. I guess there's 4 different types of attacks. There's coral. You don't have defense against coral. That's interesting for them to include that. Yeah, so there's different type of weapon types. You have semi-auto, full auto, burst, charge, homing, which is what this is, melee, and then shield. And then there's different types here. If it's single shot, reload type, magazine, you know, or it overheats. Let's see here. That's actually really high attack power. It's not the best impact damage, unless it's charged, then holy crap. That can't not be. No, that is actually its stats. That is a lot of attack power for a charge. That is a lot of attack power for a charge. What does this do? Oh. And if you charge it... That's what he was... That must have been what Locksmith was using on me. That's an interesting weapon. That is a very interesting weapon. How many... Let's see here. Cost 150. 120 rounds. Really? Interesting. I guess it just gave me the... yeah, it gave me the left side. Gave me the left side for free. I'm curious. Can I actually... No. What did he have? Yeah, so he did have the drones. But he has 2 parts. He used... Wait, the VVC 770LB? So he used the most basic rifle. I think I have that laser blade, actually. The Morley? I don't think I've seen the Morley, though. Hang on a second. Oh, no, I don't have his blade. Okay. So he still definitely has parts I do not have access to. And there we go. I am the master of the arena. Which means for now, let's actually use our OST chips here. Which basically gives us the ability to do things here. Like, we can actually enable us to have manual aim instead of auto-aiming. I probably wouldn't recommend that, unless you may be using mouse and keyboard, or maybe doing the online PvP. Weight control's another one if you actually want to be able to manually purge your weapons. Weapon bay, if you actually like using, let's say you like using the hand weapons, but you just want more of them. So you can actually just swap your weapons instead, which gives you a lot of different options of using any of the shoulder weapons. Core expansions, you only have 1 equipped at a time. I went with the terminal armor. Originally I wasn't too enthused by it, but honestly I've actually kind of come around to realize this is actually a really good one. I've actually learned to like it. I'm sure pulse armor still is actually really good for its purposes, but this being a desperate dirge. What I really want to spend my chips on is for this here. I want to actually maximize the repair kit effectiveness, and maximize my damage mitigation. Because, hey, the game destroys you, so I'm not going to hesitate in saying, you know, I want that. And you can even reset all this as well. But now I'm torn here. I could improve the precision of attacks against staggered enemies. I know that I can improve my crit damage, basically. Or I can just improve my normal damage, as is. Which I think is one of the reasons why I wanted to stick with the lasers. I could have really just maximized the lasers, but... Let me see here, actually. So this is 15% increase. So... I'm gonna get about 200. I'm gonna say it's probably better if I just do energy, and, do I really want the extra 3%? Let's see, so that's... I really should have actually done the math. I should have looked at the numbers. The numbers! You know, actually, hang on a second. So if I do that... That's 6... Yeah, no, I'm not gonna be able to get it. You know what, actually 10% is actually fine for that, and I'm fine with that. And let's just improve. Do I want to improve? I can do kinetic damage more. I'm gonna do, let's be honest, I'm probably gonna do kinetic damage more, actually. I'll just leave 1 chip left. I'm fine with that. That works as is. I'm surprised, actually. I was expecting, like, a new arena opponent or something. What? If Freud... I don't know how Freud is just a simply ordinary human being who's also an augmented human. I never really did go in depth about that, aside from earlier generations used coral and the later generations didn't. Because everything was about the coral. Let us start Chapter 5 here. Chapter 5. Take the uninhabited floating city. Combat zone, alien ocean. Xylem floating city. Objective, defend the objective. Defend the control tower until systems takeover of the floating city Xylem is complete. Ah, so we're going back.
Let me tell you a story, tourist. After the fires of Ibis burnt the planet up, a secret organization formed, hiding in the ashes. Overseer, the Association of Observers. They monitored the coral's growth, ready to burn it before the collapse came. That was their mission. Our mission. Me, Walter, and our fallen friends. RAD was always a front. A side hustle. It's time for me to get back to my real work. Let's get down to brass tacks. You've been to Xylem before, right? The floating city created by the Institute? It's hiding a secret. A little something to prepare against the coming collapse. We need to get to it, and fast. RAD's entire team of hackers is going to be working to take control of Xylem. I want you to deal with Arquebus when they come running to see what we're up to.
Alright. Good old throwdown against Arquebus. Hey, if you enjoy completing games, more power to you. Hope you enjoy getting to 100%. I've learned I was never a huge fan of achievements. Do I like getting 100% in games at times? Some, but not many. I realize it's more important for me to actually enjoy the game the way I want to play it than having to play the game the achievements want me to play it, or following a meta, or, you know, I just want to enjoy the story. I want to enjoy the story and the game that developers create. More than anything else. That's kind of always been my view in playing games. Alright. Let's take over the uninhabited city. That was really... RAD was a side hustle. So I was right. So Cinder was number 2.
Overseer, the Association of Observers. They want to burn the coral.
Yep, something tells me I'm going to have to make a tough choice in this game, whether I want to burn the coral or if I want to save it, because the coral is a life force. It's a sentient being.
Activating combat mode.
There we go.
Get into position, tourist. It's time. I need you to protect that tower until we've managed to take control.
Normalization process K. Deploying shield.
Chief, I've cracked some of the defense systems.
Good job, Chatty. That'll buy us some time. Looks like you're in position. Chatty, how much longer till we have control?
Give me 5 minutes, and the corpse will...
I'm picking up an Arquebus MT squad. Well, guess who showed up early? Looks like you're up already, tourist. Give him the old RAD welcome.
RAD welcome. You got it.
I'll support you. Don't let them near the tower, tourist.
Normalization process B1. Plasma cannons ready.
There's
We've got
something
access to
here.
support weaponry. Use them if you need the
Oh,
help.
there it is. Ah, shoot. That's fine. And our
4 minutes
objective.
left and the system is
Our
ours,
objective.
tourist.
Oh, they really want me to do a lot of things here. something. Really probably shouldn't be using my heavy cannons against those guys. No.
3 more minutes. Hang in there, tourist.
I am loving this new engine I'm using.
Hey, tourist, go clear them out.
Oh, you really didn't have much at all. What? Hey, no. Oh, come on.
I've got high-level access now. 2 more minutes and it's ours.
The shield's at its limit.
Go.
Wait, we've got something else.
No vital signs. They're suicide drones.
They're playing for keeps. Make sure you don't miss, tourist.
I'm going to miss.
Shield's offline.
They're in trouble now.
Reinforcements. There's a lot of them.
Looks like they're falling over each other to get your autograph, tourist.
Raven, heavily armed LC.
Man, they got there quick.
You've been working like a dog. Must be Walter's influence. Guy's a real slave driver.
Escalating to high-level frequencies.
Just 1 more minute to go, tourist.
Ooh. You're still alive?
Give me 30 seconds and we'll have full admin access.
Just a little more, tourist.
The tower can't take any more.
What is... Oh,
Access denied. Screw now.
well. Well, I was too aggressive. Well, let's try that again, shall we? I didn't even notice the ones behind us. I really have to start getting used to scanning. That's one thing I really do keep screwing up on.
Get into position,
I also gotta
tourist.
remember that
It's time.
active boosting
I
is
need you to
better.
protect that tower until we've managed to take control.
Normalization process K. Deploying shield.
Chief, I've cracked some of the defense systems.
Good job, Chatty. That'll buy us some time. Looks like you're in position. Chatty, how much longer till we have control?
Give me 5 minutes, and the corpse will...
I'm picking up an Arquebus MT squad.
Well, guess who showed up early? Looks like you're up already, tourist. Give him the old RAD welcome.
I'll support you.
Don't let them near the tower, tourist.
Well, I know they're gonna be here.
Normalization process B1. Plasma cannons ready.
We've got access to support weaponry. Use them if you need the help.
Yeah, so it's just those two. Alright. The only downside about this... That's ricocheting. Deal with that. Who's next? I'll use these. I'll use the cannons against the snipers. That's who I'm gonna use these things against.
3 more minutes. Hang in there, tourist.
Now we've got snipers.
Alright,
Hey,
so let's
tourists,
actually
go clear
use-
them out.
Let's see how well this actually is. Shoot. Where are they?
Tower shield losing integrity.
Man, they are ruthless.
I've got high-level access now. 2 more minutes and it's ours.
Man, those snipers just destroy them.
Wait, we've got something else.
No vital signs. They're suicide drones.
They're playing for keeps. Make sure you don't miss, tourists.
The shield set is limited. The shield's offline.
Damn it.
We're in trouble now.
Reinforcements. There's a lot of them.
Looks like they're falling over each other to get your autograph, tourist.
Raven, heavily armed LC.
Just 1 more minute to go, tourist.
Nope. No spawn camping.
Give me 30 seconds and we'll have full admin access.
Just a little more, tourist.
Nope. Not gonna let you do that.
Silo control. Escalating to top-level privileges. Owner, Cinder Carline.
Good job holding out, tourist. Now I'll show you what this city really is.
The water level's falling. No, the whole city's rising.
You can thank Walter for the tip. I give you the colony ship, Simon. Walter's parting gift.
That's one heck of a parting gift. Objective taken within 10%.
Let me fill you in on the plan. While you were captured, Arquebus finished their work on the vascular plant. It's pulling the coral through Rubicon's atmosphere, and it won't be long till they take it all. We need to burn the coral before it's too late. Of course, we can't just walk up to the plant and light a match. No, we're going to need something bigger. A lot bigger. Well, figured it out. The xylem isn't just our means of reaching the plant. It's a giant powder keg. Plenty to set all that coral off.
Is that the Observer's plan? The corporations want only to devour the coral. The Observers fear the coral and want only to eradicate it. I believe in the shared potential of humanity and the coral. Raven, I need to ask you something.
No new messages.
Wonder what she was going to ask me. Yeah, ire is, to my knowledge, at least part of the coral. So obviously, that I'm assuming there's going to be decisions here of what's going to be your ending. Well, let's take a look. Yep, we get a decision. So that's been the interesting part about this, is you intercept corporate forces. Let's see here. Troposphere, Xylem Upper Districts, destroy enemy AC. Eliminate Vesper number 1, Freud of the Vespers. Next rewards based on the number of enemies destroyed. Or eliminate Cinder Carla, Troposphere, Xylem Upper Districts, destroy enemy AC. Eliminate Cinder Carla of Overseer. I'm curious. Well, let's listen to both mission objectives before we make our decision.
Here's the situation, tourist. Arquebus has sent its entire force after the xylem. We're trying to fend them off, but honestly, we've got our backs to the wall right now. That's where you come in. Leave the grunts to Chatty and the others. I've found someone just right for you. V1 Freud, the ace leading the corporate force. Walter left me one last card to play. You. Once you're in, there's no turning back. Can I count on you?
Alright. Let's see what this is. This is disturbing. Eliminate Cinder Carla?
Raven, this job comes from me. Air. A Rubiconian. Overseer is planning to burn the coral to extinction. I want to keep that from happening. The only way to stop the Xylem's ascent is by seizing control of its systems. And that means we have only one choice. We'll take advantage of the confusion while the corporations and Overseer are fighting, and eliminate Carla. I understand how you feel about betraying Walter's last wishes and taking on Carla. But still, I want you to give me a chance. I'm not asking Walter's hound, but Raven, the independent mercenary.
I'm honestly I'm too curious where they're going with Ivory's story here. Like, the coral is a life force of its own. It has its own sentience. Well, I'm actually which is unfortunate because I really actually liked Cinder Carla. But I want to see where the story of Coral is going, because that's what all of this has been about. It's all been about the Coral. There's been nothing else. Like, a lot of the other Armored Core stories usually had something a little... Well, maybe not, the stakes were never as high, but at least there was a society going on. And there were people who lived their lives as a raven doing other things. It wasn't like a war-torn, apocalyptic planet district here with the most valuable resource known to mankind. This is easily the darkest of the Armored Cores, but I'm curious. Well, one of the darkest. Yeah, let's eliminate Cinder Carla.
I was hoping you would take the job, Raven. Thank you.
Because the Rubiconian front didn't do anything. They were just eliminated, even when I sided with them both times. It makes me curious, like, if these are false choices or not. I mean, I'm assuming this is not going to be a false choice, because we're literally at the climax.
System activating combat mode.
Let's get started, Raven. As always, I'll support you. Carla has taken up command in the reservoir dome in the Xylem's port wing. Known enemies of both the corporations and Overseer are doing this. Please, be careful.
Rubiconian apes, out of my way.
That's way too slow. The man who captured you at Institute City. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna deal with him.
I thought you'd run away with your tail between your legs. Back for more, are you? You fools don't know your place. You don't know when you're beaten. You don't even know what's good for you.
Oh, he heals.
Still hanging on, are you? Old augmentation at its worst. All you know is to chase your master's prize. It's just as bad. Recalcitrant to the last.
AP at
Re-education. What a wasted effort. Yet another idiotic call by my superiors.
2 repair kits remaining.
My augmentation has been refined to perfection. How dare you bear your filthy fangs against me?
AP at 50%.
Come on. Get out of here.
You pest! You may have won this battle, but I'll win the war.
V2 snail down. He's withdrawn. Let's keep moving, Raven. The partition's locked us in.
Well, hi, tourist. How much did Archivist pay you? Hate to see you again. Actually, why don't you stick around?
I'll handle the partition. You take care of this. competition.
Figured you were beyond small tricks. Chatty, fire up the ACs.
Carla, she's in there.
One repair kit remaining.
Yes, that is the entire concept of every single Armored Core game, Kite Pyro. You are a mercenary being hired to do the jobs of the corporations or pretty much anyone who you choose to accept. Typically with a lot of Armored Core games, it's always been you and usually 3 other corporations going head to head. Actually, yes, very much. Like, the fact that you are very much a silent character basically allows you to make your own decisions and put yourself in the role of the Raven. Because Raven, at least in previous Armored Core games, is pretty much a title. It is the title of a mercenary. No, you're not afraid. You can always ask questions, but it's not a simulator game like going to be, asking corporation. Like, hey, why do you need to do this? The corporations will always give an explanation. They will give you explanation of the mission and, what their motivations are and such, or what it will lead to. And that's how a lot of the character development of the Armored Core series actually develops. So that's the way it always happens. And that, to me, has always been very interesting of a dynamic for a story, is you being the mercenary. Not so much of like, you don't ask questions stuff. It's like, no, you're putting yourself in the situation. You're the pilot. You're the one deciding, like what jobs to take, with what corporations that are available, or just doing the jobs where literally one mission you're working with a corporation and the next mission you get hired by another corporation to attack the very corporation you were just working with. That is basically, if anything, the universe of Armored Core, is that there were always pilots called Ravens who were doing it. It's not so much about the payment, to be honest. Like I said, you are instilling yourself as the character. Like, yeah, every single mission will have a monetary reward to it, but it's your choice, at least to a point, because there's still an overarching story with it. But you have, you get to assign what your own motivations are. That's the deal. You could be the type of person you want to instill your character and say, like, I'm role-playing a character that's all about the money. Me, I'm not. I've been a Raven where it's been more about freedom and liberty than anything else. Like I said, you are the Raven. You are the mercenary. You basically get to be who you want to be, and knowing the fact that you are doing jobs and doing things like the arena to prove that you are the best pilot. Assuming you want to do arena. If you don't want to be the best, recognized as the best pilot, then you're able to.
Let me tell you my motto, tourist. Get your laughs while you can. I don't know what you're up to, but you better make it worth it. Chatty, you know what we're dealing with. Pin that tourist down.
Roger, Chief. Supporting.
AP at 50%.
Walter told me, Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence What's on you?
Hell it.
She's dead, tourist. You have made a big mistake.
Hell is chatty. There you are.
Right shoulder ammunition at 50%. Left shoulder ammunition at 30%.
You're making this hard. I can hear the chief laughing.
How? Can't believe you actually got away with that.
TP at 30%. Right.
Guess I can't do everything. Guess you run, tourist. But the chief never loses.
What? The Xylem's control center is locked out.
Let me, Chief. I'll take us over the finish line. Inheriting privileges. Owner, Safety Carla. Activating perimeter protocol. Xylem propulsion vector locked. All systems locked out.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah, that was really, really close. I'm actually surprised I survived that. Bonus pay. Defeated V2 Snail. But he survived. Hey, I was wondering when I was going to get that part. Look at the head 20081, Mind Alpha.
No new messages.
Carla had planned everything. Even her own death. Just like Walter, they both wanted someone to inherit their legacy. The Rubiconians are continuing to resist the corporations on the ground, even now. The potential of humanity and Coral isn't the only thing we have to protect. Raven, there has to be something we can do.
Curious. Head part of All Mind, designed as a research project to extend human sensory capabilities, with numerous optimizations to create ACE that, to the pilot, feels like an extension of the body. Huh. It's not a bad head. It's not a bad design. I don't know how people are going to S-rank every single mission, but I'm sure they'll find a way. Chapter 5, Destroy the Drive Block. Stratosphere, Xylem Drive Block. Destroy targets. Destroy the large Sky... That's not a real word. Skyrimon generators located throughout the Xylem's drive block. Skirmion? Skirmion? Skirmion, that's it. Skirmion.
I'll explain our mission. Carla's last strike has rendered the Xylem inoperable. There's only one way left to stop it from colliding and igniting the coral. We have to take the whole thing down. The lower drive block is powered by large Skirmion generators distributed throughout the area. If we destroy all the generators and stop the ramjet engine in the upper city sector, then we can crash the Xylem into the Alien Ocean without impacting human life. One more thing. I took the liberty of using your name to rally allies to our aid. Beyond scorched skies, Raven fights on. No one has shaped Rubicon's destiny as much as you have. Come and see what the name Raven means to them.
See, I don't understand how she can either can use technology or send out messages or any of that stuff. That is the Deus Ex Machina I have not figured out yet. But let's destroy all these generators.
Let's go, Raven. One of our allies should be arriving already.
What allies do we have left? I don't think Rusty would exactly be a turncoat.
Looks like the guest of honor's here. Hey, buddy.
Rusty!
Never thought I'd be rubbing shoulders with the liberator of Rubicon. Every Rubiconian who heard your cry rose up to fight. Let's show them there's a future for Rubicon beyond these scorched skies.
That's a nice new mech you got there, buddy.
Main system activating combat mode.
D4. Rusty was the first to offer his help.
Oh!
Never thought the plan would go so wrong. But it's good teaming up with you again. Couldn't have hoped for a better silver lining.
Even more of our Raven's enemies.
Let's clean up, buddy.
Target confirmed. That's one of the Sturmian generators. One generator destroyed. 3 remaining.
Looks like the Liberation Front has broken into Institute City. You should hear this. Patching you in.
Now, comrades, rout the corporations. We'll show Raven. The Rubiconians will wallow in the ashes no more.
Slogans scrawled in ash were never going to change Rubicon. Cinders are alive with flame once more.
So where next? Ah. Oh, you guys! Oh, hi. How's it going, guys?
Two generators destroyed.
Surrounds the plant. Keep pushing them back. It's time. Deploying the Schneider AC.
Sounds like quite the party down there. Love to see all my hard work paying off.
Whoa! Alright, I am sick and tired of dealing with you. And where? anything here? No, guess not. Huh. Would have thought there would have been something. Oh. Viva la Revolution! Let's go down and around. Ooh!
That's a machine from Grid 086.
Looks like we got our work cut out for us. It'll be just like when we climbed the wall.
Oh, you again, huh? Oh, this is gonna be a brutal fight. Oh, okay.
I'll get its attention. You handle the shooting.
2 repair kits remaining.
Shit. I'm not gonna enjoy this one. Oh, you have a lot more health than normal. I guess they want me to go above.
We've got it now. Finish it off, buddy.
Almost. Got it.
Smart cleaner destroyed. Wait. Detecting hostiles ahead of the silo. Enemy fleet approaching.
Guess Archibus decided to escalate. They must really want us dead. Let me handle the fleet. You've got a mission to finish. I'm counting on you, buddy.
Alright, just point me where I need to go.
We're entering the drive block's core. Watch out for ambushes. There's 2 Skirmian generators left. Once we shut those down, we need to deal with the ram engine. Destroy the generators and head outside.
Where?
Sustaining major damage. We're dropping
Oh.
like flies out here.
Target is 1AC. Identification. V4. Rusty. He's supposed to be dead.
Full barrage. Don't let him get any closer.
You're out of luck. There's only one person who can keep up with me.
I like Rusty. It's the target.
Three generators destroyed.
One more to go. Now where? Oh, hello. Aha. My scan.
All Skirmian generators destroyed. Get clear, Raven. Drive block's going to explode.
Bad news, buddy. Something's headed straight for your position. I've never seen something move that fast. They must have finished work on Beltaeus.
Raven, we need to get outside fast.
Would you like to show me a route? It's up and over. Yep, up and over. Surprised we actually get a supply here. I thought we were done with getting help. No chests.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Oh, he has a shield too.
The Xylem is doomed. Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral.
Oh, that was a big hit.
Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience. But I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Artemis. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you. Out of my sight, vermin. That's right. Those dogs in command. And worst of all, you, the pest of Rubicon, who stir the cinders. You sicken me, all of you. I'll crush you underfoot. I am Artemis.
AP at 30%. Left shoulder ammunition at 50%.
Finally dead, are you? Now I'll have to re-educate those apes. More housekeeping.
That is very much reminiscent of the chapter 1 boss, actually. That is very much the chapter 1 boss, just a more advanced version of it. Not as many missiles, but Dan Finley with the beams. Dan Finley with the beams.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
Archivist Valteus. Highly identified as V2 Snail.
Darn it. Oh, the amount of damage that you take.
AP at 30%.
The Xylem is doomed. Good. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won coral go up in smoke. Rabble-rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Artemis. You are vermin, and I will be rid of you.
Energy output is ramping up again.
be more? I'm beat, buddy.
Ah, come on. Where the heck are you?
Right. Guess I'm not done yet then.
AP.
Ah.
Dead, are you? Now I'll have to re-educate those apes. More housekeeping.
So, at the end of every mission that you complete, that is actually what happens. So, you accept a job, you get paid that amount. Let's just say 100,000. But so there's some missions. There are some missions actually where you can extract penalties aside from the cost of ammo and repairs of your mech. In other words, repairs of your mech basically just means how much HP you lose. Other penalties for some missions can exist. Like if you destroy something that shouldn't have been destroyed. There aren't many missions that I can recall in the story mode where there were additional penalties. But your general cost will always come from repairs and ammunition. Very few missions, even in the older Armored Core games, had penalties like that. And usually they'll be very explicit, like say, do not destroy general property. But considering this is a planet that literally burned to ashes, and the only forces that are there are either corporations, the people who survived, and there was an additional force, but they're no longer there. They left. Yeah, the setting of this game, the plot and everything like that, doesn't really allow for like, oh, don't destroy infrastructure, that'll cost you money. Doesn't exist as much in this game, because the world is already kind of destroyed here. It's all about the coral. However, this boss is definitely just like the first chapter boss. Just a lot more damage with those lasers.
Raven the independent mercenary. You're not the mutt I thought you were.
That machine!
You're below that. You are vermin.
AAP-07. Archivist Valteus. B2 Snail.
Nope.
Asylum is doomed. It would be most inconvenient to see our hard-won core go up in smoke. Rabble rousing the locals. Another inconvenience, but I'll overlook that. No, your crime is that you tried to kill me. Kill Archivus. You are vermin, and I will be
It's ramping up again.
out of my sight, vermin.
No, wait, I have an idea. Nope, that didn't work.
Those dogs in command. And worst of all, you, the Mr. Rubicon, the cinders. Secondly, all of you. I'll crush you underfoot. I am Archivus.
One repair kit remaining.
The enemy's taking critical damage.
We're losing the blast! Boy fighters, we need cover!
Knew there'd be more. I'm beat, buddy.
Oh, thank goodness, I got him. I got an AC cancel.
Right. I guess I'm not done yet then.
AP at 30%.
No!
No repair kits remaining. Left shoulder ammunition ammo 50%.
I can't dodge that.
I am Archivus. One last plan.
Confirmed. V2 Snail, down.
Sounds like it's over. I just about managed.
Oh no.
Rusty's signal just disappeared. Raven, It seems we've got trouble ahead. We need to take down the Xylem fast.
Oh no, I think we lost Rusty. Something destroyed him. Or at least his core.
Augmented human C4621. Entering standard mode.
Bring down the Xylem. Combat Zone Exosphere. Xylem Upper Districts. This concludes the chapter.
The Xylem is beginning its descent. Now, we just need to destroy the ramjet engines. Let's put an end to this, Raven. We're going home. To Rubicon. The world you saved.
How the heck did they get that up into the upper atmosphere? That thing was literally underneath the planet. Well, let's go.
We'll also need to prepare for re-entry. Be ready to escape once we're finished.
That was a close fight. Like I said, that's pretty much what you should expect for boss fights in this game. They're very good, but at the same time, like I said, you've got to be willing to find a build that works for you. And be willing to adjust when needed, which is the hard part, because if your playstyle is different, then you're in trouble.
Raven, that's one of the ramjet engines. Please, destroy the target.
Literally in space. I don't think I can. No, probably.
Port chamber is silent. Starboard chamber is silent.
Alright, so what's left?
The Xylem is falling from orbit. The coral's safe. Rubicon's safe.
Is that you?
That's Walter?
They 621. I have to dispose of you.
Walter! Got that AC. Picking up a coral response. Watch out!
Corporations. Orders. No. My friend's mission. Eliminate all obstacles.
Whatever they did, you're in danger. We have to defend ourselves.
Yeah, that would be an understatement.
Voice. 621. I see it next to you. Yes. Kindling for the fire.
Raven, we're re-entering Rubicon's atmosphere. There's no time. Hurry!
When something's alive, it doesn't die easy. You have to burn every last cinder.
Oh, come on.
621. That's it for this job.
I think he has the Kurosawa, which is this franchise's weapon, aside from the Moonlight. Oh, that's more of a corporation. That's more From Software's legacy weapon.
Corporations. Orders. No. My friend's mission. Eliminate all obstacles.
Whatever they did, you're in danger. We have to defend ourselves.
That voice. 621. I see it next to you. Yes. Kindling for the fire.
How did I miss that?
We're re-entering Rubicon's atmosphere. There's no time. Hurry!
When something's alive, it doesn't die easy. You have to burn every last cinder.
He's the only one that falls
Repair kits remaining.
when he gets the attitude stun. Damn it, come on.
Burn the coral, and our job will be over. You earned all of the credits. Until the surgery be normal again.
Raven! Walter! This has to stop!
No repair kits remaining. AP at 50%.
The mission. My friend's wishes. Look at you, 621. You found a friend.
Walter! We have to go, Raven. Raven. One day, humanity and Coral will thrive together. You kept our potential safe. I know Walter feared a collapse. But I promise you, there's another way. Raven. We'll find it together.
Oh, and there it is. So there are multiple endings to this game. So in other words, there's definitely a good reason to replay this game. Yeah, there's the first chapter boss. I'm curious if there's a post-credits thing, actually. You know, this was actually a good. This is actually a good game. I did enjoy myself. I mean, obviously, I'm somewhat biased. I'm a little surprised, like they didn't do much with the Raven that you took your name from. And I'm really curious if your decisions actually does determine the direction of the story. I have a feeling it doesn't. I feel like Archibald's group is always going to win compared to the other corporation. I'm surprised actually. It was only really a two-sided struggle. They didn't do much making like a three-sided struggle like they normally do. But I sided with the Rubicon Liberation Front both times, and I feel like that didn't have that much of an impact, and I'm really curious if it actually does. Like, if other people had the other corporation win over who I currently fought. But I feel like it wasn't. And Armored Core games never really were huge about the, giving alternative endings here. Japanese voice cast. Hold on a second, I just want to see here. Chris Hackney was Rusty. Shara Kirby. Honestly, the voice acting for this game worked pretty well, actually. DC Douglas was on there? I didn't see it, actually. Like, honestly, these credits are going by very quickly. Oh, well, good for him. Did you see which character he played, or was it just additional voices? I'm sure he's probably has it in the IMDb. Hey, how's it going, Crazy Rockman? You have two friends that have their names in the credits somewhere? Oh, nice! It's really hard to actually get into the video game industry. It is really difficult, actually. And not just from, like, being a game designer. Like, every single thing you're seeing. Finance, accounting, business development, business strategy, business intelligence, operations. Every single one of these jobs. Really hard to actually get. It's very much who you know to get your foot in the door, but it does come down to how charismatic you are. And yeah, it does determine how well you can do the job, and usually you need a very strong portfolio for that. But the who you know literally is the thing that'll get your foot in the door. Unless you have literally... You have been making your own projects, and you have been publishing them, and you have been marketing yourself. That if anything, is what the big thing a lot of people kind of miss, is you really do have to be your own social media manager and market yourself. And always, that's why it's always important to either publish things under your actual name or make your persona known so that your actual name is connected to your persona. So that when people look at your personas, and I would also say it's easier to build your reputation by your name. He was Michigan. He was Michigan? I mean, that makes sense, but at the same time... I didn't like the character? Because it was a weird mix between, And I feel like, if anything, it was probably more the directing, if anything. Because it was very much... Balaam Corporation came off more as, like... military/western. Pretty sure Troy Baker voiced everyone in this game. Well, if you go with a very gritty voice, it's not that hard. 621. I don't think Troy Baker was actually in this game at all. Now, I'm curious what happens if we get a choice between jumping into New Game Plus or not. Or if we just literally start over.
Raven. You took on my hopes. My selfish dream. Now, I want to see the future that you choose. Whatever waits ahead, I'll support you.
Reached ending Liberator of Rubicon. So there's one thing I do have to actually... They never explained it. If Irie is... Like, they said, obviously, that the coral is some sort of sentient being. But they never really explained much about it. Or any sort of connection. Like, it literally is a voice in your head. No bonus pay. I think saving the planet is, not having another Fires of Ibis is a good enough bonus pay. But they never explain that. I'm really actually curious. Like... Because normally what happens... Once you beat Armored Core, and this goes for 2 and 3... Their expansions retrospective were more or less just kind of like, hey, here's a bunch of extra missions. They weren't really... Well, I guess maybe Silent Line was more of a story-based driven. But basically with Armored Core 2, and I remember this distinctly because I have a save file and I checked it recently before this game came out. You actually get access to every single mission available once you've beaten the game. So I'm curious what this game actually does. So let's find out. Parts obtained. HAL 826. Body HAL. Oh, we get Walter's core. Those look very familiar from another Armored Core game.
Registration number RB23. Call sign Raven. Authentication complete. Removing MIA status. Restoring access privileges. This is Allmind, the mercenary support system. Raven, you've returned. Welcome back. Allmind anticipates great things from you.
Looks like you passed the authentication. That was quite the welcome home. Well, whatever. Raven, that's who you are now. You're on Rubicon. I've picked up some work for you already. Take a look, 621.
Yep, so everything basically, I guess, just reset? Yep, just starts at chapter 1 again. I'm curious though. Okay, so we can replay all the missions. So another. Okay. So there is actually a good reason to actually do New Game Plus. The game definitely all the missions I didn't have decisions for. So like I had another option for Eliminate Cinder Carla. Yeah, there was definitely another mission. So I would need to actually play through this game again to actually unlock all of that. But as for my thoughts of the game, one thing I'm surprised, I mean, once again, this kind of fits with the plot, because the plot of this game is... I feel like the plot, oddly enough, it's not really the weakest part of this game. But it didn't really give itself much to maneuver with or do anything with, because you're on a planet that is already destroyed. Corporations and another force, as well as the remaining people of the planet, are fighting for dominance. And so you're basically kind of in a dreary, unfortunate situation here. Then you're under control by some other mysterious corporation that didn't really do anything. Like, they didn't... I was kind of surprised. Like, you're not controlled by Archivist, you're not controlled by Balaam. They are the two corporations that war with each other. But there's supposed to be another force that Handler Walter was brought up against, or is basically working under. And they didn't really do anything with that. Which is a bit surprising, because it feels like that leaves things open. Like, it could lead to, like, if there's ever going to be DLC for this game, or, like, an expansion of this game, which is what they normally did in the earlier ones, but you don't really need to sell another game now. You could sell DLC and basically just add on to the story. But I could see them just basically releasing another game. That would definitely be another way to do it. Which allows them to kind of expand the story in the direction that they want to decide is canonical. But the music, like, I don't know, I'm kind of used to, like, Armored Core 1 and 2, and somewhat 3, where it's very much a techno. But that's, like, back during the PlayStation 2, where you finally actually had access, like, oh, man, we could actually have actual instruments playing instead of chiptune stuff. But the music fits. It may not be a soundtrack I would go, like, there would be a couple of songs I could easily see myself, like, listening to again and again. Like, the Rubicon, the mission with Rusty. That was actually, at the very end there, that was actually a really good song. I would definitely like to listen to over and over again. And even, like, this sound here. It's not Armored Core 2. But it's nice, it fits. It's very calming. It gives you focus to really kind of just look, because when you're actually doing what you're designing your AC, you kind of don't want something distracting you. I'm curious, actually. Nope, I didn't get Walter's info. Is there any new parts? No new parts either. That's weird, actually. So either I didn't find, and I have a feeling I didn't. Oh, I can make a lot more, Wait, what the... I wasn't able to make his... No. Okay, I still can't make Swinburne. I still can't make Wu-Hua Hai. Still can't make Ring Freddy. There's a lot of cores I still can't just make. Something opened up that will now allow me to just buy everything. Still can't make any of the top ones here. Like, you definitely are gonna have to play through this game multiple times. Just to be able to... I'm hoping, like, by playing through this game multiple times, you'll be unlocking the rest of the parts, because that's weird. You're normally should be able to actually do it. But let me take a look at this real quick here. HAL 826, the head part for the HAL 826 piloted AC. Developed long ago by the Rubicon Research Institute, the last of the IBIS series, and the only piloted IBIS craft. It was built to be the final safety valve to prevent a coral collapse. Huh. That's actually not a bad... That's actually a really good, headpiece. That's a really good headpiece, actually. The heck? That's a wide boy. That's another... That is actually really good, assuming you don't let yourself get staggered. That's really good. Let's see. Wow, these parts are exceptional. Like, outright exceptional. Oh yeah, I never got the... Oh no, I already looked at the Mind Alpha. And... I'm surprised how many bipedals this game actually gives you. That's the one thing I'm surprised by. They really put a bias towards, the bipedals. Let's take a look here. You know, bipedal, 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 bipedal. Yeah. There's literally, like, only two reverse joint... There's 3 reverse joints in this game. 2 tetrapods. And there's 3 tank legs. I feel like, if anything, that might actually be the big criticism I would probably have with this game. There's not exactly a lot of part variety, and because they drip-fed the weapons and the parts, it's a little difficult to actually let you, do anything. Like, you don't have that creativity right off the bat. Because it just drip feeds it to you, just one piece at a time. But I think this game is actually good. I think, if anything, it's still a very simple game. I don't know why people, like, the bosses, I definitely will say, are a challenge. But it's not so much, oh my god, hard. It's more of either you don't have the tools to beat the boss, and you should actually change your build to, and find a playstyle, which is something a lot of people don't want to do. I mean, that's why I struggled against the first boss as well. But it is nice, though, that they can actually just do replay the missions. Because you can even get, I don't know what the point of getting S rank in all the missions are, but I feel like that's probably that's probably going to be an achievement, which is going to be absolutely brutal. Just absolutely getting S ranks in all these missions. Because they're not easy. They are not easy. But I definitely do, like, there's 3 missions here I'll have to redo to actually get the, actual, logs and unlock the rest of the parts available through the, hunter logs. And I would like to actually do that. But no, I really do actually like this game. I think this game will definitely give, I really do hope there will be a lot of people who will enjoy the PvP, find people to play against, whether it's friends or find a group online. I really hope someone basically makes a Raven's Nest, and I would like to try my hand at it. Where it's like, hey, it's a PvP night, you want to play, if I can't find anyone to play, I can play online, and just do that, because, not that, the nest here. Oh, what the? Okay, that's just a video. Yeah, you can actually just literally do custom matches. You can create a room or search for a room, and you can literally just do, hey, do I want to do team? Do I want to do 1v1? And literally put yourself up against other players. And that, I think, is absolutely great. And I really hope there will be a big push for it. Because there's definitely going to be a lot of people who will be more than happy to try out their builds against other builds. And just seeing other people go up against others. And if there's a spectator mode, even better. Because that's something I'm going to play with on my own time. Really do, like, search, like, hey, can I just be the spectator? If you can literally be the host of the room and just be the spectator, that is going to be amazing. Because that will mean, basically, a person can do commentary just watching other people play and go over their builds and such. So I'm really hoping there's something go over it, because I could definitely see a lot of potential in this, because there's so many different weapons, there's so many different styles. The only criticism I would probably have in this game is probably the charge attacks in this game. That's probably, if anything, the only thing I would actually say is difficult, because everyone is moving so fast in this game now. It's going to be very difficult to actually warrant not firing against an opponent until they're actually vulnerable to pull off a charge attack. Like, that's the reason my build and my playstyle so far, I'm actually surprised I went with double guns. I was honestly expecting to just use a melee weapon. That's what I normally do, but this game definitely changed where you will want a just because of the impact alone, you will want a you're gonna want a something that is faster. So it's really weird, actually. One other thing I will note, actually, as well, that I never got was this franchise's weapon, the Karasawa. I don't have it, and it is not in the shop either, which is a surprise. Well, it's not surprising. I'm gonna guess I missed it somewhere. It's gotta be somewhere in this game. Because that was very, like, this looks close to the Karasawa. This plasma rifle, but it can't be that. It would be named. Although I do find it funny, they literally have a bubble gun in this game. They have bubble guns. But yeah. How long have we been going? You know, I think that's actually going to do it for me. I know this is a shorter stream. I'm tempted. I think what I'm going to try and do, and this is just an idea right now, I'm going to be bouncing in my head for a little while, or for the week. I want to try and do more weekend. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to be doing weekend streams. It's not going to be every day like I used to do. There's no way. I have too many other things I would like to learn and to be able to integrate not only into streams, but just focus more on making content online. And really try and find a good project management cycle that works for me. But I would like to try and actually start doing online PvP. I might actually do the story mode again, actually, because this is... Something tells me there's more. There's more to this game than meets the eye than just simply beating it one time. Because there's multiple endings. I would like to be able to actually experience all the endings and such. And collect all... Maybe not collect all the parts and such. Or, like, I don't think I'll go for S-rank stuff. That's absolutely insane. I'll leave that. Unless there's literally some really good price for doing that. Then I'd consider it. But... with how much damage those enemies were doing against me, those bosses were doing against me, yeah, Snail was a pain. So was Walter. That was also rough. But yeah, the sky's the limit for this game. But what I'm planning on doing, I'd like to actually try and get into weekend streaming. So maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, one of the two. Kind of depends where my life is going. Figure out a good system where it's like, I want to see if I could do, like, games like this. I want to see if I can do something with Armored Core 6. I really do. Because if I could do something with this, that would be great. But I also want to see if that doesn't work out to make it so I can still enjoy maybe some new games that I own. Still want to actually focus more on my backlog than anything else. But also try and do a little bit more retro stuff. Maybe do, like, crowd control retro nights and such. And I want to make it, like, super cheap. So that everyone can have fun with it. And if it leads to somewhere, then I'll, you know, plan for growth and such. But I want to get back into this, because I do like streaming. I definitely know it shouldn't be all-encompassing. It's definitely the time where it's like, this is my time. I want to be able to sit down and play some games, or sit down and play games I like, and really give people a good show. And it's not just simply me just kind of sitting down going, yeah, you know, let's watch someone else's content and such. But be able to actually do something, create something, and have people enjoy their time here so they can hang out and such. But I think that's going to do it for me tonight, though. For now, though, since we're ending very... Well, actually, we're ending usually around my normal time here, actually. Take a look who's streaming right now. Yeah, I'm going to give a host over to Shrung. He's actually currently playing through Castlevania Symphony at Night, blind. So, don't help him. Let him enjoy the experience. Let him suffer. But that's going to do it for me tonight, though. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's stream. Like I said, I'm not going to be done with this game for a while. I'll probably actually be... You know what? We'll probably actually be playing through this game this coming weekend. Whether it's through the story mode, I'll probably actually dedicate a night towards the PvP just to experience it and see where it goes and see what I'll see what options I can actually do with the online stuff. But I really want to just at least beat the game once on stream. So now that we've done that, and it's a school night, we can at least now go towards what my original plan was, which was more of Friday, Saturday, Sunday stuff. But till then, though, once again, thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. And until then, as always, take care. And take care of yourselves first.